Welcome to the Tu Cuentas Cine Youth Fest Film Chat. I'm your host, Raymond Arturo Perez. Tu Cuentas is powered by HITN. Tu Cuentas is not just a festival, it's a vibrant community of young storytellers committed to shaping a more inclusive future in the film and television industry, both in front and behind the camera. Before we start, I encourage you to visit our website at cineyouthfest.org to check out the top 10 film submissions before we announce the top 3 winners on October 16th. Don't miss a chance to see the incredible talent showcased this year. Your support means everything to these young filmmakers. Thank you so much for joining us. And before we meet today's guest, here's a little bit more about me.
Raymond Arturo Pérez describes himself as a Mexican-American brown nerd from San Antonio, Texas. His friends and family can attest to these facts. He earned his nerdom 7 years in band as an alto saxophonist and 2 years as a drum major. Raymond received a bachelor's in radio, television, and film, and a bachelor's degree in marketing from UT Austin in 2014, and received a master's in screenwriting from the American Film Institute in 2019. He is the current chapter president for the Texas Ex's Los Angeles chapter, the third largest chapter of UT Austin alumni outside of Austin, Texas. That's pretty cool. As a queer Latina writer, Raymond aims to further drive representation in film and television by telling stories of Latinos, queer people, and other underrepresented and historically marginalized communities by centering them on messy, complex, and complicated characters. He was a staff writer on the second season of Netflix's original series, Selena. He was a playwright and producer at the 2018 Brown and Out Fest in LA. In 2022, Raymond was selected as a finalist for the inaugural Stars hashtag Take the Lead Writers Intensive for his pilot, Chola Mom. In 2021, his pilot, The Only Gay in Waco, placed him as a finalist for the inaugural Out Loud list. In 2023, he was selected to be part of Sony Pictures' Television Diverse Writers Program. In 2024, he was part of the Latino Filmmakers Network at the Sundance Film Festival. Raymond is currently in post on his first short film directorial debut, White Space. Our host and star is growing. Yes! When he isn't writing at his table, he can be found on the dance floor, dancing to Brazilian funk and salsa or voguing with his house, the Royal House of Hervé Léger.
I'm so excited for today's conversation. Before we get started, I want to go ahead and introduce our first guest speaker today, the Chief Operating Officer of Universal Cinergia Dubbing, Gema López.
Responsible for the company's operations, Gema López holds a law degree from the International University for the Integration of Latin America. She began her career in the industry at Universal Labs of America, a post-production company where her vision and innovative spirit paved the way for the creation of Universal Cinergia Dubbing in 2012, in collaboration with Lilian Hernandez, a dynamic duo that knows how to steal your heart with professionalism, but more so with their dedication to helping others. From gripping dramas to captivating animations, from documentaries that enlighten to Turkish telenovelas that enthrall, Universal Cinergia are trusted by industry giants like NBC, Sony, Warner Discovery, and Amazon to bring content to life for global audiences. With an eye for detail and a knack for fostering passionate teams, Ms. Lopez has led the company's expansion from its Miami location to 5 global territories. Now overseeing more than 80 plus personnel across multiple time zones and languages, she continues to tackle new challenges in the ever-evolving field. Her philanthropic work in her native Nicaragua and many other Central American countries through the Smiles from Heaven Foundation has brought hope and opportunities to those who really need it, the children. This lady is a powerhouse.
Muchísimas gracias por invitarnos. Realmente estoy muy honrada de estar en este show y de poder participar con ustedes.
Where are you joining us from?
Bueno, hoy estoy en Cuernavaca, nuestros estudios aquí en México. También tenemos estudios en Ciudad de México, pero hoy estoy en Cuernavaca.
Super dope. I am excited to get to today's chat. For everyone watching, today's film chat is on the power of voice, the art of dubbing for film and television. Voice is identity, it carries personality, culture, and emotion. Dubbing is about honoring the original performance while making it accessible to new audiences. The tone, pacing, and inflection, all of these things can make or break the authenticity of a scene. So I'm super excited to jump into the conversation with Gema. Gema, can you walk us through a little bit about this process of dubbing for film or for television? What qualities do you look for in bringing in a dubbing artist?
Bueno, definitivamente para atraer un talento de voz se necesita una voz que enamore y sobre todo un performance que tenga la tonalidad del personaje que buscamos. Entonces es muy importante ese tipo de proyección en las voces.
In regards to culture and like even slang, how do you ensure that the dubbed version maintains the original story's cultural nuances and humor?
Bueno, eso es la magia del doblaje y lo difícil, ¿no? Buscar cómo mantener el original, pero regionalizándolo para que pueda hacer sentido a esa audiencia. Entonces trabajamos con lingüísticos nativos y con personas que tienen conocimiento cultural del contenido y tratamos de mantener siempre el original, pero regionalizándolo un poco para que se pueda entender sin faltarle al respeto al contenido original.
And I'm curious, like, even with a language like Spanish, that in itself has so many different regional slang and colloquialisms, how much do you adapt to certain areas versus keeping it more generalized, or do you keep it specific to a certain Latin American country?
Para el español se utiliza lo que se le llama el español neutro. Como muchos colombianos, peruanos hablan de diferente manera y tienen ese slang diferente en todo, lo que quiere decir para mí una palabra no necesariamente es el mismo significado en otro país. Tratamos de mantener un español neutro, un español donde todos nos podamos entender. Entonces, para que viajen en toda Latinoamérica, siempre se busca un acento neutro.
How does your company approach inclusivity and representation in casting voices for diverse characters? For example, what role do you think dubbing plays in making media accessible to wider audiences?
Bueno, para el casting siempre se utiliza la autenticidad, buscar la voz que más se parezca al personaje principal que está en pantalla y que hayan tenido un tipo de ciertas experiencias. Lo que quiero decir es que el talento tiene un portafolio de personajes que ella ha hecho. Entonces tratamos de buscar que sea siempre igual el personaje, el profile de ese actor, ¿no? En pantalla. La autenticidad es clave en el doblaje para cuando se está haciendo las voces por personaje. Y bueno, el doblaje ha demostrado que es la única manera en que el material puede viajar. Para Universal Cinergia es un honor ser parte de esta globalización donde el contenido viaja. Tenemos mucho contenido turco que está viajando a Latinoamérica, ¿no? Y hemos sido gran parte de eso. Entonces, el doblaje da esa accesibilidad a todo el mundo y ahora con las nuevas tecnologías también hay accesibilidad con el closed caption, con el subtitle y muy pronto con el sign language.
And I'm excited to get a chance to speak with actors who are dubbing. Uh, but for those who may be unfamiliar with just how big the market is, how big are we talking in regards to specifically the Latino media market?
Bueno, hay muchos estudios de doblaje. La mayoría están aquí en México, pero hay estudios de doblaje en Chile, Argentina, Perú. O sea, este mundo ha crecido increíblemente a una velocidad que no lo esperábamos realmente. Pero con todo el contenido que se está creando, la necesidad y la oportunidad de otras casas dobladoras han emergido y hay una cantidad también muy grande de estudios como nosotros que está proveyendo cursos para las personas que quieran aprender esta profesión.
We have had a lot of discussion about how technology is affecting creativity and a lot of folks that work in this storytelling industry, and specifically with AI. How has that affected the art of dubbing and this industry?
Bueno, afectarnos no lo ha hecho, sino más bien nos ha ayudado. Automatización en los procesos, agilidad en los procesos que hacemos. Ahora, el AI, mucha gente lo enfoca en las voces artificiales o sintéticas que da la AI. Realmente, Universal Cinergia en estos momentos no cree que la voz y el sentimiento y la emoción esté en una inteligencia artificial. Nosotros vendemos historias, o sea, le damos vida a una historia, a un contenido, a un personaje que odia, que ama, que está alegre, que está triste, que quiere morirse. Entonces, eso todavía la inteligencia artificial no lo da. Entonces, sí, la inteligencia artificial nos ha ayudado en otras áreas de productividad, en el área de llevar las cosas más rápido, de tener herramientas, pero en el reemplazar las voces, no. Por ahora no lo hará.
Thank you so much for that answer, Gema. Now I'd like to introduce two of the artists that you've worked with at your company. Their names are Anayelli Estrada Benitez and Gabriel Orjuela Lopez. If I can welcome them in to talk a little bit more about the art of dubbing.
Hello,
Hi.
hello.
Hi, everybody.
I wanted to kind of turn the discussion to y'all who are working in this craft and in this medium. How do you approach adapting performance originally created in another language, but make it feel authentic and natural for you as you come on and take on this role?
Well, in my case, it's been a little different, maybe even a bit easier because I actually started as a voice actress and later moved into adaptation. When you are at the studio, you record with a director that often makes changes to the script. And after years and years doing that and learning about that, I kind of built a dictionary on my head that tells me which words I should use. For example, here in Mexico, in my country, we have very weird expressions. So you immediately know those won't work. But I think the hardest part to adapt will always be the jokes because they don't mean the same thing in another country. But I think the key is to approach it from the perspective that it's not only going to be seen in your country, it's going to be broadcast in many others. And from the acting perspective, I've always believed that emotions are universal. So even if you don't speak a language, you can see if your character is angry, is sad, is happy. So when it comes to dubbing, I think it's very important to understand the emotion in order to convey it.
hmm
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, as someone who this conversation is so fascinating to me because this is not necessarily the first thing that I'm thinking of as I go to the page and write dialogue. But to what you're saying, yeah, like sadness, anger, these are things that we all experience. And so that's, yeah, like it's almost like a duh, but also like aha moment of like, of course. Gabriel, do you have anything to add about how you approach your characters?
Well, when it comes to me, I really didn't start with too much of a background. I didn't study it or anything. In fact, the reason I got into it was because my mom, who has some background in telenovela acting, she did a few voiceovers for commercials and stuff. She always told me, "Hey, you have a good voice." And To be honest, I just kind of, which is something you have to do in the studio, I learned to just be able to embrace kind of being goofy and being uncomfortable and stuff. So that ties into what I was also going to say, which is I just grew up watching a lot of anime, playing a lot of games, watching a lot of movies. So I guess all that kind of rubbed off on me. And then when I was in the studio, I just learned to be myself and also try to channel those emotions that I've seen displayed on screen hundreds, if not thousands of times brilliantly myself. And I think the key to that is just not holding back and let yourself be guided by your director and know that you might mess up, but at the end of the day, you have to bring that character to life no matter what it takes. You got to tap into it.
And Anayelli, we've been talking a lot about the actual like production of these dubbing sessions, but I'm curious if you could talk about a moment where you felt really proud of a voice that you brought a character to life for your local audience or intended audience. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I remember that a few years ago we dubbed a Fox project called Fuerza de Mujer. It was a great story that was aired on primetime television, and I voiced Serene, the villain of the story. She was crazy. She was obsessed with her sister, and she was all the time trying to make her life miserable. And the original actress's performance was great. So when you are a voice actor, you feel with the responsibility to be at the same level. I did my best, and I remember that the network uploaded clips to social media, and that was a way for me to know how the people was reacting to the project and specifically to my character. And uh, they say that when the audience hates the villain, you are doing a great job as an actor. And I remember that they really hated Serene. So hearing your voice every night and that people remember and recognize your job even years later is something really, really awesome.
Since y'all have both started these journeys as dubbing artists, have you all seen a any increase in the jobs that you guys are taking on? Is there a huge demand for this? We kind of talked about it um, earlier in the conversation, but you all as artists, how are you guys feeling?
There's more content, but I think that that's good for the industry because more content means more work. In recent years, I've gained experience because I've been working in projects I have never been involved on before, and I think working on this is really a challenge, but it's also very encouraging.
And how about you, Gabriel?
Um, when it comes to me, I've just noticed that recently, especially since 2020 happened, there has just been such an influx of things to watch at home, of things that need interpreting. I mean, I'm talking everything from YouTube videos to audiobooks, like voices are needed. And like Gema was saying, we're not at a point, nor do I think we'll ever be at a point where AI can just replace the true intention of a human voice when it comes to acting. So it's been fantastic. I take every audition that I can take, every little casting that I can take, because I just like being able to do this by using my voice, I feel like is a blessing. It makes time fly and you're never bored. And, you know, there's
Yeah.
never a lack of work. If you're willing to get in there, there's never a lack of work.
And so a lot of the folks that are watching this are young storytellers, maybe folks who've been interested, maybe some folks who are now curious about dubbing. Do you guys have any recommendations in terms of um, technology to help support you as a dubbing artist, equipment, or even any like training or certification?
In terms of what you had access to before, nowadays, this also applies to making music or photography, filming, making movies. Like your iPhone, your simple phone is a fantastic microphone. Um, you record demo reels for yourself, different cadences, different like You do your high register, your low register. You upload that on SoundCloud. You can join Discord communities of other aspiring voice actors and dubbing artists. There's so many fan projects that people that, for example, could not go out of their way to afford someone like you can do it for free. You can build up rapport and credit like that. Involve yourself in the community. And I think before you know it, if you pursue that hard, you'll get in the studio. You'll be absolutely in the studio. All you need is your phone and access to the internet, I think, and a willingness to do it.
And to what both of y'all are saying, I feel like this is also something that has been in a lot of our conversations, both this year and in previous years, that knowledge is available. Things like YouTube, Google, TikTok, like these are all incredible resources to get information on topics that we're discussing here and also other topics that we've covered in the past. So definitely use that to your advantage. Use your phone
Yeah.
now like a part of anybody's gadgets and gizmos. Use that as part of your way to tell your stories. Before we wrap things up today, I did want to bring back Gema López. And just kind of to wrap things up, you know, what I'm hearing from our conversation is that in regards to opportunities, there are many in dubbing. Any takeaways or pieces of advice that you'd like to give folks watching who are curious about this, who in regards to like the future of dubbing?
Bueno, yo les diría que si les gusta esto, si les llama la atención el doblaje, nos contacten, podemos ser una buena herramienta para empezar. Hay cursos, hay maneras de enseñarles cómo pueden hacer su sueño realidad.
Bueno, yo creo que el consejo sería ese, estar en aprendizaje constante, porque incluso si ya hiciste protagónicos, siempre hay cosas que puedes aprender. A lo mejor haces doblaje, pero también sabes cantar. Entonces, a lo mejor puedes hacer doblaje de canciones. A lo mejor descubres que te gusta escribir y entonces puedes no solo actuar, también puedes adaptar. Y pues yo creo que ese sería el consejo, estar preparándose constantemente y, claro, disfrutarlo.
Yes, I think that makes such a huge point is that dubbing we're skimming the surface. There's so many other avenues in music, in the subtitles that we were discussing earlier. There's so many facets to bringing a story from its origin to other areas around the world. And Gabriel, do you have any other projects that you've been a part of that come to mind, or things you're excited about in regards to the future of dubbing?
Well, honestly, to be honest, every time that I get the green light on an audition, I get excited because it's a chance for me to step into, you know, essentially another world for a couple of weeks or months or however long the character's journey is, and do it. I guess without spoiling too much, recently I was a part of a Mexican drama show that is going to be released on a streaming service soon. And I could not be more excited. It was a wild ride going from, like I said, King Solomon to a guy trying to keep his relationship from falling apart, and you know, it's cathartic too. It lets me get emotions out in the studio. You know what I mean? It's just brilliant. It's fantastic. And any like last little bit of advice I can give to people is go for it. Absolutely go for it. We're only going to need more people. It's only going to get, you know, there's a lot of hidden talent and voices out there that you got to let it go. You got to let it shine, baby.
Amazing. I think that's a great thing to end on. Once again, thank you to all four of you, to all three of you for joining us today. And thank you so much for your time and your knowledge.
Absolutely.
Muchas
Thank you
gracias
very
por
much.
esta oportunidad.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us again. I want to remind you all to visit our website, cineyouthfest.org, before we announce the top 3 finalists on October 16th. And make sure to follow us on social media if you're not already following us. Here's a special shout out to our sponsors. Once again, my name is Raymond Arturo Perez. Thank you.